Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me in the studio performing an Iron Lotus, it's Andy Greenwald!
You know, I never thought, of all the twists and turns I thought this podcast would take over its 6-year life cycle, becoming the #1 podcast for American ice dancing was it's just not something I saw.
Andy, welcome to Thursday's Watch podcast.
Oh, hey, man.
It's a special episode because today we are going to be joined by Alex and Maya Shibutani, American ice dancers from this past Winter Olympics. They won the bronze medals over there. We got to touch the medals. We got to hold the medals.
They let us wear the medals.
And those guys, what a dynamite pair.
These two are dreamboats. Let me just tell you, people out there, I know America fell in love with them on the ice. You'd fall in love with them twice in person. This was really a kind thing. This was like a quick-moving courtship, because during the Olympics, Alex gave an interview to Entertainment Weekly where he said that his favorite podcast to listen to was this one.
And Bill.
I don't remember that part, weirdly, but I don't blame him. And we began tweeting at one another, and when they were back here, they came by, and it could not have been nicer. We really enjoyed our time with them. There's also a fun video that we did where we watched
director's commentary for ice skating movies. We did Blades of Glory. I think we got a couple other ones coming out.
Let me just say one other thing. We're going to talk about a couple others. We're going to talk more right before we get into that interview.
That's right.
You want to talk more? You want to do that talking first?
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a little bit about the announcement that Jon Favreau is going to take over the live-action Star Wars television series. We're going to talk a little bit about this announced prequel to The Sopranos that David Chase is working on. And we want to recommend a show to you, and we also have a Double Down Book Club.
This is a full show. I just want to take 1 second to say, though, as much as I loved being with the Shibutanis, we had a great time. That was the first time, real talk, and I know Alex is going to hear this, a little bit I could relate to the witch character in Hansel and Gretel, because these two are so young, and they were so sweet. And when we looked at the pictures, we literally looked like we were on Mount Rushmore, the two of us.
I look like Billy Crystal in The Princess Bride.
And I look like Carol Kane.
Yeah.
I mean, it is wonderful to be
You are the Brute Squad. That's not how he says it.
That was my only point.
Andy,
I wish we could bottle their
so we talked to
energy.
the Alex and Maya. That's the second half of the show. First, let's get through a couple of news items. First of all, StarWars.com, my homepage.
It sure is.
My portal into the galaxy. Announced today that Jon Favreau pod saved the galaxy.
I know. How does this guy have
It's not
time?
our homie Favs. It's the director of Chef.
Yeah, sure.
Will be taking on the live action.
The guy from Iron Man 3?
Iron Man 1.
Well, he plays Happy Hogan.
Yes, right. I always thought his name was Poppy, but
No.
that's Pepper.
Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan.
Gotcha.
Alliteration was so big in the 60s.
So Favreau is going to be directing importantly, writing and producing and executive producing a Star Wars series for Disney's new direct-to-consumer platform. So we've talked a little bit.
Luke is going to leave the longest series of voicemails for Leia. That's a deep Favreau cut.
Wow.
Sorry.
Great swingers.
Well.
Alderaan, baby. Alderaan.
There it is.
Favreau is going to be writing and producing this. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago about how obviously this is the crown jewel of Disney's direct-to-consumer service. It's going to be, we have to assume it's going to be there in Netflix. They own a piece of BAM, the Baseball Advanced Media, the back-end video technology that they're going to be using. And obviously they'll have the Disney catalog to entice folks like yourself who have little people running around. But then also
have children.
Yeah, also there is this carrot of having Star Wars live action. Favreau in the last couple of years, he started out his career and he did Swingers and he did Made and, even, obviously was experimenting with a bunch of different kinds of genres. But in the last, say, 10 years.
Since the first Iron Man. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy
has cemented himself not only as a blockbuster filmmaker, and that had actually been in shaky ground when he made Cowboys vs. Aliens, which I think was supposed to be a big comics to movies blockbuster with Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford, and didn't quite pop off that way. But since Iron Man has sort of reliably delivered mainstream entertainment, whether it's
the Jungle Book, right?
Jungle Book, he's directing the live action Lion King that's coming in 2019.
Is he really?
Clearly a Disney fave.
Yeah, they trust him. I mean, that's the biggest thing here. I mean, we've been talking about the inevitability of a Star Wars TV show for as long as we've been doing this podcast. That drumbeat has only increased once Lucasfilm really kicked into high gear with all the new movies. It's a safe choice. I mean, that's what they're looking for on these giant corporate decisions. We could tell ourselves this is a creative decision. We won't know for quite some time. Jon Favreau has made good family widescreen entertainment. He's a smart and talented guy. But this is a corporate decision. And I have to say that my main takeaway from this, and I know I'm going to disappoint the troll who said I don't like anything except Star Wars by not liking something related to Star Wars. It's kind of a bummer that only a certain type of dude is being allowed to play with these action figures.
Okay.
If you look at the people who have been given...
Josh Trank agrees with you.
Josh Trank is just furious. Exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the Game of Thrones dudes, at David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, and Favreau,
Rian Johnson,
J.J. Abrams, even the ones who were relieved of their duties.
Yeah.
Colin Trevorrow and
Josh Trank. And Phil and Lord Miller.
Lord Miller is who I'm looking for.
Yeah,
but please say Josh Trank's name. Like, let's never let it be forgotten. I mean, there is a certain people like us, literally us, like people who grew up in this. I mean, because we are J.J. Abrams, we've had a similar level of success.
Right.
No, but that's all I'm saying. I mean, this is not a new argument, and they were not going to give this huge new plank in the franchise to someone untested.
Yeah.
But boy, it would be nice to see a different sort of person
the
telling a different
diversity
sort of
question
Star Wars
is there,
story.
and there's also a question of tone. I think we talked a lot before when we've brought up this idea of like, well, would it be a prestige style show? Would it be Star Wars characters standing around being like, "Am I a bad man?" You know, and
would it be Greedo looking in the mirror being like, "I shot first"?
Well, it's basically the question of how big of a tonal and emotional platform or spectrum is Star Wars on. Mm-hmm. And I think
or will it be allowed to be on?
And it's been the most interesting tension of these newer films, whether it's Rogue One, whether it's some of the things that happen in Last Jedi, of how far can we push things with still making this entertaining for 6-year-olds and 56-year-olds. And Favreau is really, really like an innings-eating, entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg would probably without the like innate genius of visual storytelling. He's got those kinds of sensibilities. Yeah. So that should tell you a lot about what you're going to get. Now, I think he seems to have a good facility with actors. He gets good performances. I think he makes entertaining stuff. There's a very good chance that this could still be entertaining. But if you were thinking this might be like the Battlestar Galactica reboot, it probably is not going to be.
There is no... I don't mean a ding on him personally or artistically, but...
Can I tell you something?
The thing to look at
He's good either way.
He's fine. Exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I
can't hear you on his money phone. The signal's not good.
It's just made out of money.
Hello? I can't hear you through all this money.
That's where he is right now. And if you're going to compare it to anything, compare it to J.J. Abrams being entrusted with building out the business. You know, that's it. But it will be in general when we talk about these next steps for these franchises. The most important discussion point is Black Panther. Not just because it's well on its way to making $1 billion, but that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that people want to see different versions of these stories, and they are ready to see them. And the more redundant you make them, or the more you make them, it's no longer enough just to have capes, or no longer enough just to have lightsabers. And I guess Solo is going to be a big test for that as well.
So from the expansion of the Star Wars universe, let's go to the expansion of the Sopranos universe.
Very, very similar.
David Chase back.
Yes.
It was announced today that David Chase is, according to Deadline, quote, finally ready to return to the New Jersey turf of his iconic creation, The Sopranos. New Line has purchased the screenplay, The Many Saints of Newark, the working title for a feature prequel to The Sopranos that is set in the era of the Newark riots of the 1960s. That was a time when the African Americans and Italians of Newark were at each other's throats, and amongst the gangsters of each group, those conflicts became especially lethal. So a feature film.
Great.
From the director of Not Fade Away.
Which certainly tread very far from the milieu of The Sopranos.
This is a show that's very near and dear to your heart, much nearer and dearer to your heart than mine. Yeah. So I thought you should have right of first refusal here.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the spirit of full disclosure, the agent that brokered this deal is my agent.
So you'll be playing young Junior.
I actually am angling to play one of the young African-American capos because I figure dream bigger.
Yeah.
But look, this is great. David Chase is a singular talent. Sopranos is one of the greatest shows of all time. There clearly was more story to be told here. He is not the sort of person who is going to be wooed into a project that he doesn't care about. one thing I learned firsthand when I interviewed him for the podcast was he really, truly does not care what other people think.
Sure.
And he is not going to move at anyone's pace but his own. So it wouldn't surprise me if this had been percolating for quite some time. I think that ultimately the response might be similar to Not Fade Away, which was a very respectable, very well done movie that when I watched it, I couldn't help but think it would have been better served as a TV show. But the thing to remember about David Chase is he's very much of an older generation, and despite creating one of the most important television shows of all time, still thinks he kind of failed on some level because he made a TV show. So, I would be all in, as would HBO, if he had just been like, look, let's just blow this out for 3 seasons or 2 seasons or 10 episodes, but he wants to make movies. So it will be very interesting to see how the storytelling sensibility in the storytelling milieu of The Sopranos translates into a 120-minute film. But it's exciting.
Do you think that this is a movie he wanted to make about 1960s Newark, and he had to get it made? He had to call it a Sopranos prequel.
I think it's just too. No, because I think that he was always interested in that previous generation. I mean,
that would be amazing if he was like, actually, like, let's just make a 60s Newark movie, but it's like you want to call it Cloverfield, go for it.
Well, right. I mean, that you're not wrong to suggest that.
Yeah.
But I think just the importance that Livia, Tony's mother, had, that Uncle Junior had in the show, and the shadow of Tony's father, and what they lived through. But then also just that tease of the very beginning of the Sopranos pilot, when Tony says he feels like he came in at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what it was like before it was over. I mean, I think it'll be great, but it is not nearly the news story it would be if he was making this for TV. Regardless of the relative audience of a film versus a TV show, this will be what the outcome for this is. It will be a respectable, hopefully critically adored, smaller film.
Sure. Yeah. So that stuff's happening in the future. Let's talk a little bit about the present, because I believe whatever it would be tonight, midnight, but essentially tomorrow on Netflix, there's going to be the debut of this new show. I'm not sure if it's actually aired already in Britain.
It started in February.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably already aired.
So we're talking about a show called Collateral. Now, tons of TV, guys. I know there's lots of stuff happening. But we're really excited about this one, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I did not have like the highest of expectations, although the sort of cast and crew working on it should have probably told me that I was wrong to not have higher expectations. Starring Carey Mulligan. It's written entirely by the acclaimed British playwright mostly, but screenwriter David Hare.
And it's directed
by S.J. Clarkson,
who is herself a really respected but rarely given the chance to shine on a prestige level.
She directed a couple episodes of Jessica Jones. She's done House. She's done Ugly Betty. She did some Banshee. She's all over the place, but she does all 4 episodes. 4 episodes, guys.
4
That's
episodes.
It. 4 hour. It's a mystery set in contemporary London, and it's starring Carey Mulligan. I've watched the first one. Andy's watched the first one. It comes out tonight. We're going to do 1 per watch episode. So for the next 4 watch episodes starting Monday, we'll break down this series and just chat about it. It won't, it's not going to be what is, any kind of like fan theories. This is just like really good writing at an incredibly high level. And I will say that this may seem like typical watch, like, oh, crime fiction stuff. There is a different energy to this show.
Yeah, I agree.
Not only is it incredibly of the moment in England in terms of it's like a Brexit mystery. It's got to do with the splitting of the Labour Party, with immigration and refugees, with the changing face of England. But it also has a zest and a intellectual propulsion that I don't think a lot of crime shows, much less any television, has right now. There has been a sort of turn towards ponderousness over the last 4 or 5 years, and I think people associate slowness and drabness and morbidity with seriousness. But this is essentially like Aaron Sorkin writing 24. It's really, really rat-a-tat. Carey Mulligan out here hanging on the rim on people. She is phenomenal in this show.
She plays an investigator. It's a little bit Prime Suspect, a little bit Fargo, because she's very pregnant in the role.
An ex-pole vaulter named Kip Gillespie.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Carey Mulligan is so fantastic in the show. I mean, it's a deep bench. It's a big cast.
She's essentially playing like the Humphrey Bogart role. She's just like a wisecracking detective. Yeah.
There's something about casting her against type here, because the thing about Carey Mulligan, she has, to my mind anyway, she has one of the warmest and most welcoming faces on the screen. She seems, you just sort of your heart goes out to her because she seems like a worthwhile person. That's how she presents. So to put her in the role of a tough cop, which she pulls off with aplomb, is really interesting because she uses her looks and her just natural empathy to great effect as a police detective who is questioning people, who doesn't brook nonsense, doesn't have time for it, but plays against her expectations of what that role and what that performance should be. But it also is great for us because, and I'd be curious to hear from British viewers who listen to us and who have seen either the first episode or the whole thing, if it holds together. Because there might also be an element of this where it's maybe facile to Londoners, but there's an element of this that we're seeing a different world. And frankly, I had never really spent that much time looking closely at the abomination that is London takeout pizza. But it is much worse than I expected, and this show really doesn't shy away from that fact.
Yeah, the last things that I'd seen by David Hare was his trilogy of, I think they were films for television starring Bill Nighy that were about Johnny Worker. It was about a spy, an ex-spy.
Oh, yeah.
And they were the same sort of, they were a little bit more screwball-y than Collateral is. It was called Page 8, Turks and Caicos, Insulting the Battlefield. It was a trilogy of these films about one character, and they were excellent. I mean, just like the level of writing and just the level of dialogue is just really refreshing.
Yeah, I like that it is entertaining us. I like that it is you said it at the beginning. There's a brightness and flair and speed to it that is really brought out also by the excellent direction. But this is an urban show, and it's really entertaining to be there with a mystery that I don't know what it's going to happen, and it moves in all directions. It goes down towards the truth and spreads out. And we thought that in lieu of a deeper dive chapter watch show, we'll do a quick mini binge of this show all together for 4 episodes, see what we learn, see where it gets us, see how we feel at the end of it before we take on our next big project.
Yeah, so episode 1 Monday, 2 Thursday, 3 on the following Monday, 4 on the following Thursday. Before we let you go, before we get to the Shibutanis, just a quick word for us. We are going to be doing another Double Down Book Club selection. This one is, we don't mean to play the greatest hits, but we felt like it was time. It might be collectively our favorite crime novel.
It might be the best crime novel ever written.
It
might be.
It might be.
It definitely has the best first sentence. This is James Crumley's The Last Good Kiss. I'll say it again. Maybe you're not transcribing. Maybe you're driving. The Last Good Kiss by James Crumley.
Yeah.
We talk about this book a lot. This book influences the way we think and watch things. James Crumley, one of our favorite writers, was a larger-than-life character who had dreams of great literary glory. He wrote a book after his service in Vietnam called One to Count Cadence that didn't do super well. It's okay. It's a very serious book. And then basically to prop up between teaching universities and to prop up his multiple marriages and robust bar tab, he sort of stumbled into crime fiction and wrote with a literary flair and also substance-infused mania that both fit the times, because he was writing in the 70s, right? He was writing in the 70s after the 60s kind of went super sour.
Yeah.
But also really upended the genre. This book introduces a lead character called C.W. Shugru. Shug is in sugar, Rue is in Rue the Day. There are other books starring Shugru. He also has another character called Milo, who's another detective. The two come together in a later book. We would love to have you read all of them, but this is the one that is the most, it's the tightest, the most together.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun. And we were
Yeah,
dithering over this. We were thinking about some contemporary books we were excited to read. We hadn't tried yet. But look, we did this club for a reason, and one of the reasons was to both reread our favorites and to share them.
Yeah, we were batting around a couple, and I think we would like to get Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann.
A nonfiction
Yeah,
book.
down the line. But Last Good Kiss is the book now. I mean, if you like Jim Harrison, if you like Richard Ford, I would even say that it has a relationship spiritually with Robert Towne's Chinatown script. It's that kind of reimagining the hard-boiled detective after the summer of love has gone bad. And it's quite a piece of American social history as well as crime fiction.
And it's worth noting that many people, not just stands like your boys here, think that it has the greatest first sentence of contemporary literature.
Sure. Do you want to read it?
I do.
Okay.
When I finally caught up with Abraham Traherne, he was drinking beer with an alcoholic bulldog named Fireball Roberts in a ramshackle joint just outside of Sonoma, California, drinking the heart right out of a fine spring afternoon.
Dog Crunch.
Dog Crunch. That's
There
what
you
we
go.
used to say.
Tomorrow we will have on the Ringer Podcast Network. I was just going to say, check out the rewatchables, The Big Lebowski. Happy 20th anniversary to that movie. So Sean Fennessy, myself, Jason Concepcion, and David Shoemaker did the rewatchables for that. That's going up tomorrow. And while you're checking out Ringer products, please read Allison Herman on Versace.
Yeah, I really appreciated the piece that she wrote because it's sort of a puzzle why this show, obviously I already copped that it didn't come together for me, but it has not replicated the either rating success of the OJ show or the kind of cultural buzz success. And I think she did a good job trying to parse exactly why that is.
I'd be curious to see how at the end of the day, maybe in June, like which of these shows like Waco, like Versace, which of them popped more and didn't.
Also, the thing to do, and maybe we can get some outside help to give some expert opinions on this, but which were successful internally, because the goals were very different.
Totally.
Paramount Network was trying to make a name for itself with this splashy star-studded Waco. Did that work for them? Are they happy with the results? Similarly, how does FX feel about basically how all that momentum for OJ turned into an aborted second season about Katrina that maybe is going to happen, maybe now it won't, with Ryan Murphy leaving, we don't know, leaving FX and going to Netflix. This show, which essentially is a Tom Rob Smith show, as Allison points out, it's really not a Ryan Murphy show. Interesting to see. How about if you're down in Texas this weekend, come check out your boy.
Yeah.
Not me.
I'll be there with the cast of The Sopranos.
That's
No, I won't.
You know, like be real. Like the dude who played Bobby Bacala has just been making calls today. He's like, I could play my own father.
The Irishmen, they're aging those guys backwards.
I gotta be like those. All the cast of Sopranos, shouts to them. They were all indelible in those roles. I love them all. But if there was a reliable hang at any HBO event in New York over the last 15 years, they
love an open seafood buffet.
They came to the buffet.
Alex, it's very big of you. I know you're a Patriots fan.
Yes.
So it's
congratulations.
Very magnanimous of you.
So we all won recently.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. We've all had big events in our lives.
I felt like I had to make up for the Super Bowl. That was really why we skated so well.
The day before we left.
Are you as big of a Patriots fan? Or are you as invested?
See, when Alex is in a good mood, things go well.
Okay.
So, you know,
that's right.
His team's sort of my teams. It works.
When we first started skating together back in 2003, 2004, that was the year the Red Sox went on to win their first world championship in, a billion years.
Yeah.
And they were down 0-3, as we all know, to the Yankees. And that was one of our biggest first competitions that we had ever done.
It was a qualifying competition.
Yeah, for our first national championships. And so we always say that if they hadn't turned it around, everything could be different.
Oh, man, it's the sliding doors moment. Dave Roberts stealing a base is what led you to this place.
I was skating terribly, and then as they progressively started to come back, the week kind of reversed and shifted course.
Did you also have like a playoff beard and hair back then? Like this long, like Johnny Damon style?
Can you tell?
Yeah, I was
the facial hairs.
Well, I figured
Cowboy up.
It's a different look now, but at the time,
it
was a different decade.
It was a good crew. Trot Nixon and the gang.
I lived in Boston up until 2000, and Trot and Troy were my guys. I really liked those guys.
Those were your guys?
Yeah, I thought that because there was no chance really of them ever winning a World Series, so you were like, I have an affection for them,
God, I feel like this really raised the ante on this entire conversation now that there are Olympic medals on the table.
They kind of, you just can't not
I can't
see them.
not look. It's very
Did you
exciting.
guys have these last night at Oscars? Did you guys break them out?
They asked us to bring them.
Okay.
And it's definitely an interesting conversation starter.
Who was the most famous person who asked to see your medal?
Until this moment.
Until this moment.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anyone.
By ranking anyone?
Yeah.
We could just
That's
look
like,
at their
I don't know if you know
IMDb's.
The Ringer, but we have a tendency to do that.
I do listen to you guys. Guillermo del Toro, a lot of people have held the medals. Kumail Nanjiani, Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx seems like a really good hang, like at a party.
He has a really cool car.
Yeah.
Does he? What kind of car is
I
it?
don't even know.
I assume he has the invisible car from Atlanta season 1.
It was a bat. I don't even know. It was like a Batmobile SUV hybrid.
But we passed it, and there was just,
Yeah.
Well,
really
I want to ask you guys about your experience in Hollywood since you've arrived with these medals. But to begin with, let's go back a little bit. I want to ask you about the Olympics. Here's the question that I've been thinking about a lot. Obviously, you guys are professionals, and so you are prepared for and have been preparing for every time a moment when they call your name, the lights go down, and it's go time. That's what you do.
The lights never go down.
The lights never go down.
It would be more dramatic if they went down.
I meant mentally.
Would it be
Okay,
harder
yes,
to
of course,
skate
of
if they
course.
went down?
What about the after hours
Probably,
all dark
yeah.
skate? Okay, so, but what was been boggling my mind is that in addition to being prepared for that go moment multiple times during the actual Olympics, you're also preparing knowing that beginning in around January, that go moment is beginning for every aspect of your life. It's not just your performance slots. It's once the spotlight goes on in the Olympics, it's on, as you guys know, for a number of months. How did you prepare for that aspect of it, for the prep, the lead up, all the attention during the entire period?
I think you can try and think about it as much as you want, but nothing will truly prepare you for it. But we had a lot more experience following our first Olympics in 2014,
Right.
so that helped a lot.
And as we progress through time, the Olympics and like media and social media and awareness,
Yeah.
it only increases. And so with the Olympics being one of the few remaining events in our culture where the entire world is paying attention throughout 2.5 weeks, and with the US, it's primetime television every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were skating, we knew we were going to be skating at least 4 nights of that with the coverage in between. We were not focused on the media aspect at all. Like for us as athletes, we were completely preparing ourselves for the emotional roller coaster that is the Olympic Games. I guess to start with, even if you're not competing, we're staying in the Athletes Village. And you will be in the Athletes Village and you'll see athletes from all around the world coming into the village, either experiencing the best moment of their lives or potentially the worst.
Yeah.
And even when the television is on in the recovery center or you're just trying to relax, you're always on edge because you're seeing someone putting it all out there.
What is the advice that you had, having had the previous Olympic experience, that you would have given to first-timers in terms of how to filter out the noise and everything else going alongside of it?
The advice that we got before 2014 was to really just enjoy every moment. And so I think that as the pressure kind of gets to be even more, it's hard to remember to do that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, just being very present. Once you're there, time kind of shifts. It's like, what day is it? I don't know. We have practices, competition, media, but it's just really important to focus on whatever you're doing at that moment.
And every athlete, every performer has a different way of handling pressure and that intensity. But one of the things that we've found throughout our experience competing is, you know, we have a really good relationship and we work really well together, but we perform better when we realize that it's such an amazing thing that we're getting to do what we dreamed of doing when we were kids. Instead of feeling like, oh, okay, this 3-minute program or this 4-minute program, everything that I've been doing my entire life comes down to this
I think
moment.
that's what they teach us to think when we watch the Olympics. It's like everything comes down.
Oh, yeah, that's the
To
narrative.
this.
You watch the NBC promo
Yeah.
and you believe it.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
oh gosh, like,
Yeah.
you know, this is real. But for us, you know, we have been dreaming about this for a long time. So if you tell the younger version of yourself that you're at the Olympics, I don't think that younger me or younger Maya would be like, oh man, you should be nervous. It'd be like, wow, like that's amazing.
And
What if you had told younger Alex that the Philadelphia Eagles would defeat the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl?
I'd be like, wow, Chris Ryan must be very happy right now.
It's very kind.
In
Very fair.
Katie Baker wrote a really great feature about you guys for The Ringer, and she talked about a period of time in your careers where you sort of seem to understand that this is a sport where you can only control what you can control, and that understanding kind of gave you a greater sense of enjoyment of doing what you were doing. And I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about what it was that made you realize that and how it changed your skating, really.
I feel like that since the beginning, that was advice that we'd gotten from coaches, from our parents, that really just focus on what's in your control. You're doing this because you love it, you're doing it for the right reasons, and that should be enough. And so as you go through competitive experiences, we experienced a lot of success, but then also a lot of challenges. And so that's something that I feel like over time we kind of gain more of an awareness that, you know, we're not going against the clock. We're being judged when we're out there. But we kind of, after 2014, that's when the real shift happened for us.
Yeah, you hear something like that when you're 9 and 12, and it's like, just go out there and do your best.
That's abstract.
And it's like, yeah, we want to win.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you realize is that even if you put down a skate that's just the way you do in practice and you think that it's great and a lot of people agree with you, the judges might disagree for a variety of reasons. And so learning to be accepting of the process and really embracing the process was what happened for us after 2014. Our first Olympic Games was such an inspiring thing. Walking in the opening ceremony, being a part of something that's so much bigger than yourself, really changed our perspective about how we wanted to approach the next 4 years leading into the games in Pyeongchang. And I think it's kind of where it sort of cycles into what you guys do, talking about
This is-
pop
this is
culture.
very generous.
This
Yeah.
is the important part. So, but really, I think we took a lot of cues from creative people in other industries, because for us, even from the very beginning, we stood out. We were different. It's been probably gone over in the coverage a lot, but being a sibling team in
You guys are
ice
related?
dance, yeah.
I never. Okay, go on.
Shibutani spelled the same way.
Fascinating. I just thought it was a coincidence.
But yeah, it always made us stand out, and it was always kind of seen as a limiting factor, because in our sport, whether it's sport or movie making, it's seen as a limitation. And so what I've always said, like, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. How much do you guys know about figure skating?
I actually know
so much.
Okay.
Probably more than him.
Well,
Yeah.
so if you know anything about filmmaking, which I know you guys do,
Okay.
then you already know a lot about figure skating.
Because it's telling a story.
It's telling a story. There are a lot of components that are very similar. This year when we were preparing for the Olympics, and this will kind of explain our process as far as how we were approaching things differently after 2014, we compared it to trying to win the Academy Award for Best Motion Picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's apples and oranges. It's Get Out and Fish Movie.
Right.
I mean, how are you supposed to compare that? There's an academy, there are voters. In skating, there are judges. You have studios. You're trying to cast the right people for the movie, the right story, the right music, the right costuming. All of these things are very similar. And so because there wasn't necessarily a blueprint for us in figure skating to be like, oh, there's another brother-sister team.
Yeah, right.
Or there's another Asian team that we can, copy what they're doing or look to what they're doing. We look to film and television.
And it's a televised sport. I mean, that was one of the things in Katie's piece that I thought was really interesting, was the way it feels different watching it live and seeing you guys, cross a huge rink of ice, where when we're watching on television, it's these close-ups and we're all watching these very technical aspects of what you guys are doing, but it's actually incredibly athletic to be going around in this huge circle.
I think it's safe to say that both of us on both sides of the table are very successful partnerships, with so much in common in terms of international recognition and accolades. Yeah. I was curious.
I've definitely been carrying you since the 2012 games.
It's true. I'm just happy to be here. I was curious, though. I think there's a shorthand about the two of you, that because you are related, that you obviously understand each other well. Knowing siblings, I'm an only child, but knowing siblings, that's not always the case, that I would choose two siblings to get along well enough to be partners professionally as well. What is it, do you think, that makes a good ice dancing team that you also have? Almost not necessarily either because of or despite the fact that you're related.
Yeah, I don't know if we can speak for all ice dancing teams, but as far as a partnership goes, I mean, Alex is 3.5 years older than me, but ever since we started skating together, it's been that we're at the same level. And there's that respect. And we don't have to be too cautious with how we give each other feedback. There's really no filter, which can be good and bad sometimes.
It's like a really good basketball team.
Yeah.
Let's compare it to the 2008 Boston Celtics.
Huh,
I
okay.
feel like there was a mutual respect between Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and obviously Rondo hadn't quite hit his prime yet.
But he liked to give feedback.
Sure, yeah, it's communication.
Rondo likes to give constructive feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as does
Exactly.
Garnett. He's free with his thoughts.
They talk on defense. We talk when we're, in our process. And that's really important. And she's lying. She was much better than me when we started. She's being very generous, and she doesn't have to be.
You caught up really quickly, though.
Yeah. But we learn, one of the important things is basics. And so because we started skating at around the same time, we were learning from the same instructors. And, the top 3 teams at this Olympic Games all have partnerships longer than 14 years.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is very rare, actually. But I think that goes, time and familiarity go a long way.
Speaking of this whole of the entertainment industry, how aware are you guys when you're competing in the games of what we're seeing? So
We're seeing and talking
well,
about
okay,
it,
so Tessa and Scott became kind of a sensation because there was a lot of not will they or won't they, but have they or haven't they? Are you aware that people over here are obsessed with that kind of stuff?
Not too much.
No,
We
so you're in a
the
little bit more of a
games,
bubble.
especially with the time difference. We were done competing in the morning, so it's not necessarily the first thing you do that you go through Twitter.
Yeah.
But because there was always something to do, whether it was practice or just getting ready for the next event.
But they are, though, right? Totally.
I won't speak on that, but we've known Tessa and Scott for a long time. They
Yeah.
used to train with us.
Right.
And they...
So you have not seen a love child, is what you're saying?
No, not at all.
But their secret ceremony was beautiful and tasteful.
But so their genre of
Yeah.
skating, they understand the roles that they play and what people want to see
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah.
And so
It's like when you have a great actress and a merman in a bathtub.
That's right.
You want to see them. You want to at least imagine that they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they utilize that, and they're really good at it.
Yeah.
And they have a very close relationship, just like we do, because they've been skating together since they were young kids.
Sure.
And so I think for a lot of the same reasons why people really embraced us because of our relationship, and parents. Their parents have been talking to us saying like, oh, like our kids maybe resent you a little bit because we were like nudging them saying like, see, they get along. Look at what they're doing.
Right.
But with them as well, I think it just provides another angle to who they are.
So coming from the Olympics, what has the re-entry been like for you? Because obviously you've been on a whirlwind, and people are, as are we, very excited to see you and talk to you about your accomplishments and what this experience was like. But I can't imagine the whiplash, because you've spent 4 years moving towards one event. The event went really well, and now there's this next phase.
Would you like to speak on that, Maya?
I mean, everyone's been really welcoming as soon as we got back.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were over in Korea, first of all, the audience there was incredible. It's the first games that's been in Asia, Winter Games. It's been there for 20 years, and I think that everyone was just so excited about the future and the potential legacy heading into the next few Olympics.
The other thing that's exciting about the Olympics, as opposed to a regular figure skating competition, and not to diss any regular figure skating competitions.
Other figure skating competitions are on notice right
Yeah,
now.
I know. Gosh, I'm gonna get so much flack for this. But the Olympics are just a completely different event. You have people from all over the world, people who are very like patriotic about their country, and you see hockey fans showing up at figure skating competitions, and they don't follow the same audience etiquette as at a regular figure skating competition. So like we were going out to USA chants, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Like growing up watching sports my entire life, that pumped me up, but it easily could have been like, oh gosh, like, country,
Did you guys go to anything? Did you guys go as spectators?
No, I live streamed the women's gold medal hockey game.
We saw one thing. We saw short track.
Yeah.
For half an hour.
Was that cool? Yeah.
I mean, we saw in 2014 so much respect.
Did you do a USA chant? Did you guys get into it?
No, we didn't.
They have this big shh.
Oh,
before they
really?
start,
Yeah, just so that they can hear the starting gun go off.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Is there anyone in the Olympic Village who at just like 2 a.m. starts knocking on doors being like, let's hit the loose track?
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's sneak in there and do it.
You
like,
guys, yeah.
There was a knock at the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning for anti-doping. That happens
Really?
all the time.
Oh, that
Okay.
sounds fun.
Yeah.
Are you guys just like, are you kidding me?
No, I mean, you
It
know
worked
that you're
out,
going to be
yeah.
tested.
Right, because
when
you
you're
got
at the games.
you got Icarus on Netflix right now, and you're just like, I guess.
Congratulations to Icarus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I wanted to ask you guys. So, when you were at the games, what do you do to kill time? Like, what are you watching to kill time? Are you listening to stuff? Are you just walking around the village? Are you making friends?
This feels like a setup. He's set up the lob, and he wants me to slam it home. The watch.
Thanks. There
it is.
That's not what I meant. That's very nice of you. But that I was just like,
that's the moment you say binge mode.
Yeah,
And we
right.
cheers. We walk off, cheers.
But were you guys like? Was there a show that you were watching that was like kind of like a safety blanket, comfort zone, or were you just watching new stuff or anything?
I wasn't watching too much because for me, it's the Olympic Games. It comes once every 4 years. So I was trying to embrace the environment as much as possible because this time around we had a lot of people that we already knew. So
Yeah.
it's good to catch up with people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, meeting different athletes and hearing their stories. I mean, like Alex said earlier, there's screens everywhere showing competition. So you try and not get too emotionally drained or invested, but it's hard. But it really is just kind of this refreshing environment to be in just because sports really do offer the world so much.
Yeah, that's great.
Of the people
Alex
that,
is like, but I was rewatching all
like,
of
it was
24.
like
yeah.
Ozark is we're coming through it.
Yeah, Alex.
Well, you should have seen. I was trying to catch up on podcasts. The reason why I listen to podcasts is because I can be doing other things. I don't have to be sitting down. I can be what?
You're only okay at multitasking.
Oh man! Wow. Okay.
If
well,
he's
that's.
ever late, then I kind of blame
Truth
you guys
bombs.
Thanks.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
man, Alex, hurry it up.
But so the morning after we finished competing, after we won our second medal, I was catching up on the Black Panther episode.
Oh
that
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
And within the first 30 seconds of the intro, I'm like bleary-eyed. I'm just
I
waking up. And I'm
screamed
like,
your name at the top of my lungs. Yeah, yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, thank
I'll
you.
remember that.
Did you guys get a chance to see Black Panther yet?
We did.
It was the first thing that we did when we
Nice.
got
I was
home.
gonna. I was
Yeah.
wondering
We got
about
Monday,
that.
And then we saw it in the afternoon.
Did
We
that
love
did that
going
make
to
you
see
shout
movies.
USA USA also?
Yes,
It's
yes.
the
At the
same
end, but then
vibe.
we realized, wait, this is a Marvel movie. There are end credits. We need
Yeah, I gotta stay
the
for all of
credits.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the diet had been since you got back. Yeah.
Of all the people that you met since you've been back, and particularly this Oscar weekend, you were out mingling. Who among the celebrities is the most like low-key knowledgeable about ice dancing and other Olympic sports? Because I'm sure everyone becomes a casual
have any
fan.
critiques?
But are there people who are like, oh, the Chinese judge really
It hasn't
negged
gone
you
that
or
deep
whatever?
dive, but Michael Chiklis was really great.
Chiklis.
Yeah.
Wow,
He was
the
so
commish.
he was so friendly and pulled us aside for a few minutes and just talked about how he really respected that, like, because everyone's been sort of fed our background story. So it's
Gotcha.
weird meeting people that you've seen on television and in movies know a lot about you.
Although to be fair, you probably know a lot about them. It's kind of equal footing.
That's
in that
true.
case.
It
But it
is
was
kind
still
of
a
unique.
bit surprising. It's like, wait, you know this about
Yeah, right.
us? But
Yeah, but it was very nice because he understood that we've had to approach things in a different way. And he was just saying like, oh, whatever you end up doing, because he's like, I'm assuming you can't skate forever. Whatever you end up doing, it's going to be a skill and an experience that will help you in the future.
What do you guys want to get out of this aspect of it? I mean, just because you are still skating, there are more competitions to come, which is very exciting. But there is this other track that goes on where you have opportunities to meet people and learn things. What excites you about that?
well, really, it's actually happened in the last few years in our preparation for this games. We've tried to look outside the sport of skating, whether it's dance, music, even chefs that we've met. It's really just been so fascinating to meet people and hear what they're passionate about. And I think that it's really pushed us to grow personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't attribute all of our success to that, but definitely leaving just the sport aspect has helped us a lot.
Is that a dangerous thing that can sometimes happen, whether it's within the world of figure skating or any kind of sport, where you kind of get tunnel vision about what you're doing in your whole life?
I
Is
really
that?
think that's the tendency for most
Yeah.
athletes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We always try to dip out as often as we can
Yeah.
because everything that we've decided to do, whether it's creative stuff with social media or, I mean, we have a YouTube channel where, like, I'm able to kind of partially fulfill my wish to, like, make movies or,
Yeah.
you know, small videos, be creative in that sense. It applies back to when we're working on skating. And, you know, just the reason why we're so kind of focused and we listen to the podcast and we watch movies is because there's inspiration. Like when Sam Esmail is doing the recap, the television recap, what he's done, actually, we specifically remember listening because you guys were asking him about Mr. Robot and how the first season was incredibly successful. And then the second season, there were some mixed reviews. People had built an expectation for what they wanted to see because they became attached to that first season and the storyline. And it was such an incredible piece of work that was brand new IP that, like, I learned. Actually, I was throwing out IP
Really proud.
at the party last night.
This means a lot. That's
And I
probably
was
one
like,
of her great.
Yeah, they're
it was great.
got it all.
But, you know, the second season and then preparing for a third season. And that literally we applied that information that we learned to our programs for the past 3 years, unknowingly. In 2015-16, we skated to Fix You by Coldplay. And it was the first year that we had ever done anything that was personal storytelling. We were coming from a point in our career where we were very disappointed with the results, but optimistic about what we were capable of accomplishing. And that program was so well received, where we knew that with 2 years to go before the Olympics, we had to figure out how to continue to build momentum while also being ourselves. So we started to come up with this concept of a trilogy, where we knew that part 2 or season 2 would need to be a natural dip and a slightly different direction, but that would then lead us to, you know, that ultimate point where the characters are fully developed and reach paradise, which
Right.
is what we skated to for our Olympic free dance this year.
Do you want to now explain to people the part of season 2 when you were secretly in prison the whole time? Because that didn't come across in the dance, but I got
That's
that
right.
vibe.
That's
that
right.
was good for the real heads. But I also have to say, this is terrific content for fans of the Watch Expanded Universe. Because when the other characters come on and they know each other and
I
you're
know.
talking about Sam, this is great crossover.
Well, so here's even further. Part 2, you guys did an interview with, I'm forgetting his name. I feel terrible. But The Leftovers, HBO.
Damon, Lindelof.
Yeah, and so similar thing. You guys weren't so sure of the first season, and then you caught on in the second season, and then it finished in the third season. And so a lot of these stories that you see across, you know, media, television, film, trilogies are relevant. You need time for the characters to go through an experience and then come out the other end. And ironically, for our second program, last year's program, we used music from the Leftovers soundtrack.
Oh, no way, really?
And we mixed it with Truman Sleeps from The Truman Show. And it's just funny how...
We didn't know any of that before we chose the music, but just...
And I don't want to put this all on like the Watch podcast.
Please,
but I'm
please
sure,
do.
I almost
Please
feel
do.
like there was sort of a subconscious thing in listening to some of this stuff and learning from it and applying. I mean, it just shows that you have to look outside your lane.
Because
That's
in
what we did.
skating, it's unusual to link seasons or years
Yeah.
or programs. But for us, starting in 2015, we were really personal about our skating. We knew that we wanted to be real with where we were at that moment. And so leading up to the games and being able to have that progression and build, I think that's also what made it so emotional to be at the Olympics, skating to paradise and skating the very best that we could.
And it's scary. The creative process is agonizing.
Yeah.
Especially when
Tell
you
me
are
that
putting
twice a week with him. Yeah.
Well, especially when you're putting yourself out there. I mean, and figure skating you are, but for us, the way that we approached it, we were literally telling our story. We weren't telling the story of a movie or, you know, a musical. It was very much, if you don't like this, you maybe don't like us.
Right.
And that was an intense thing that we had to deal with, and it took time, but I'm just glad that we figured it out for the games.
We don't want any spoilers, of course, but you alluded to the fact that you were in the Olympics 4 years ago. We just finished this Olympics. I imagine there's another Olympics in 4 years. Are you thinking of that as a part of the trilogy? Trilogies are big. I think that's very, very accurate thinking.
Up until now, we've only been thinking about trilogy from the standpoint of how we were going to build to our Olympic
The
games.
Olympics,
Sure.
yeah.
And so, you know, that story is complete. And we'll see where, I mean, it's,
Now you have to reboot it.
well, it's the second question that we get asked.
Gritty reboot.
I feel like we're back in the mix zone with you guys.
Yeah, as soon as we get off the ice, the first question is, how did it feel?
Yeah.
Looked great. Second question is,
What's next?
4 years from now.
Yeah,
right.
God, it's impossible
Right.
to think like that.
And one of the things that we think is like, well, you said
I
it.
didn't turn it around on them then in the mix zone,
Yeah.
but I feel like being like, so what are you doing in 4 years?
Very fair.
You just don't.
I will
know.
have shed the dead weight, and you know, hopefully
We'll be doing Homeland season 14
Just in a
recaps.
a
The
much
Philadelphia
healthier place.
76ers will be NBA
Yeah.
champions.
Wow. See, this now you're
I-
really servicing the hosts. I appreciate that.
We just want to thank you guys so much for coming by, and congratulations so much on your success. It's really kind of inspiring to hear people think about these things in this way. So it's just so awesome for you guys to take time out
Yeah,
to
and,
come
and
by.
even if only a fraction of what you're saying about
Yeah.
our influence is true, which I believe to be the case, I have to thank you guys because I have known my mother-in-law for almost 2 decades, and nothing I have done has impressed her until Alex tweeted the name of my podcast, and you have no idea the good graces I'm in now.
I'm happy to help.
This was huge for me, so we're all champions today.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.